Group. Good morning, Kathy Elby.
Good morning.
All right, what are we talking about?
We are talking about the top ways to sideline a deal if you're the buyer or the seller.
All right.
And number one is arrogance. So when we talk about that, it can be arrogance of the agent. It can be arrogance of the seller. Not usually the buyer right now because the buyer is begging for just to even be looked at. But even buyers at this point in time, they're tired. They're tired of being kicked around. And if they start feeling like the seller is super arrogant or the agent.
Right, or taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah, they're taking advantage of it or they're not treating them respectfully. Emotions can take over and people will make decisions based on emotions and they will walk away from a deal.
I could see that. Another
one is greediness. We've got a lot of sellers right now that know they're in the driver's seat. And I've seen it time and time again. We have sellers sometimes, or we're a buyer that has sellers that, they're maybe getting $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 over list price. And then they get really, really greedy when it comes to the buyer asks for something on the inspection. And it's like a $1,500 difference between what we're talking about. And they're literally like, no, we're not going to do it.
Can you fix the hole in the roof? No.
Yes. So it's crazy. And we have to remind people, like, you have to understand these buyers, like, that's a trigger. You say they can't take that ceiling fan that they want so bad, and they'll walk at this point in time because they just feel like they've been so taken advantage of already. And then they're asking for one little thing to gain a little bit of self-respect back. And then the seller's like slaps them back down again.
I buy that. That's, everyone wants to think they're getting a deal somewhere.
Yes. So you gotta choose your battles. And if you just want a $50,000 battle, give them the leaking faucet in the bathroom.
Right.
That's just something to think about. Incompetence is a huge one right now. Incompetence, unfortunately, falls a lot on the agent representatives. But sometimes just the client won't listen to what you're guiding them to do too. So writing something up improperly. What I see the most often is someone is trying to make a special agreement into a contract and they get part of the thought down on paper, but they never really finish the and ifs, what happens after the fact type thing. And that's what leaves people up in the air. So when we get offers in that are vague or ambiguous when it comes to language like that, we can't accept them because I've seen too many deals go sideways. So I know, okay, I get what you're saying you want, but you're not telling me what happens if you don't get it, and what happens if you get it and then we change our mind, or those type of things. So you have to think about the before, the during, and the afterthought, and make sure you get everything completely T's crossed, I's dotted on those language that you're turning in, because the incompetence part will definitely sink your offer.
One of the things as I start this process again has to be, okay, great, I don't mind selling my house, but I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to buy one. Right. So that's got to be a little apprehensive, people wanting to put their house in the market because they don't have a place to go. Yeah,
that's for sure the number one cloud that's been hanging over this market for the last 2 years.
Right.
So we're still running into that. But we are having people decide, you know what, I'm going to just go ahead and pull up stakes and figure out where I'm going to go rent if I have to, because I'm taking advantage of this market. We don't know when it's going to shift. It's not going to shift overnight.
Right.
You're going to definitely start seeing some backwards, balancing first. But we're starting to see with some buyers, they're not pushing them. They're like, this is what it is. I'm going to pay this, and I'm not going to do anymore. And if that's not going to work, then I'm going to go rent.
Here's my budget.
Here's my budget.
Here's my budget. Not going over. There you go from there.
Last thing is shadiness. Ooh. If anybody,
don't look at Kelly Jackson when you say that.
I was looking at you. No, I'm kidding. If anybody is sniffing out any type of shadiness, so this is where it comes back to disclosures, being honest with how you're treating people, being honest about whether you have multiple offers or not. We have a duty as realtors to be honest to all parties, even if it's not our client. So if you lied about something and that comes up later, or a seller is ambiguous about answering a question on seller's disclosures, that puts the buyer on edge. And then they start looking at you through squinted eyes the whole rest of the transaction.
Right. So if the seller's agent says, we've got 3 offers, and you really don't.
Right.
And then you find, wait a minute, I thought you had 3 offers.
Right, because you slip up, because you're talking to 80 different agents right now, and then all of a sudden you say something about 2 or 8, and they're like, wait a minute, you told me that. And you're like, what did I tell these people? So honesty is the best policy.
As my grandmother said, when you're honest, you don't have to have a good memory.
Yes. That's and shadiness can go back to the topic we were talking about kind of before we started. Recording devices.
Yeah.
I have to warn everybody out there, buyers. We've just had a class about this. shut your mouth in houses. Because everybody has recording devices.
Well, and
even not in,
and-
I was just saying, not even just inside the house. We walked outside of a house and we're like, because the
Right outside
rings
the door,
pick up
yeah.
so much outside the door, so you can't even wait to get in the driveway because all that's picked up too.
Well, I could see somebody saying, "I'm not saying anything, but I really like this house." And you're like, don't say that.
Vice versa. Like it's like if you don't have something good to say, don't say it at all, and then vice versa. If you love it, don't even say it more because then they know that person was sitting in my house and they ate 16 McDonald's fries and they sat down and talked to their agent for 23 minutes. Like people are monitoring that left and right.
So be careful.
Be careful as a buyer when you're talking because you will be heard. All your negotiating strategies will be listened to.
You are my secret weapon. 314-276-SOLD. Do you want to know what my secret negotiating strategies are? Call my secret weapon. 314-276-SOLD or KathyHelbigGroup.com. Good stuff as always.
Thank you.